In the heart of London's financial district lies one of Europe's most unique airports, an airport with a steep approach, surrounded by skyscrapers and water, and that is just minutes from the city centre. We spent some time with the team at London City Airport to find out what makes this airport tick. Welcome to London City Airport, possibly the most interesting airport in London, definitely the most interesting airport in the UK. We've been given exclusive behind-the-scenes access to find out what makes this airport tick. We're going to look at everything from ground operations and air traffic control through to flight operations, scheduling and slots. Let's go behind the scenes.
Hi, I'm Andy Hodges. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer here at London City Airport. So my team are responsible for attracting airlines, for driving commercial revenue and creating a great experience for our customers.
City Airport is undoubtedly famous for its steep approach. The airport has an ILS approach on both runways angled at 5.5 degrees. That's much steeper than the 3-degree approaches found at most airports. Aircraft that operate here, such as the Embraer E190, are equipped with a steep approach mode. Put simply, this deploys wing spoilers to increase drag whilst maintaining a safe speed, varying the level of spoiler deployment based on the pilot's input to the yoke. But the steep approach isn't the only factor in play here. This airport has gone from a redundant dock in 1987 to a busy city airport that serves millions of passengers each year. London City is unique for so many reasons, from its proximity to central London and shorter runway, to the fact that it's surrounded by water. Because of this, and like any airport, London City has a range of challenges it has to overcome. The airport trains its operational team with the skills they need to mitigate those challenges and ensure that they deliver a safe and speedy experience for their passengers. Let's take a look at how the team at LCY drive a solid passenger experience at one of the UK's most efficient airports.
London City, being a unique airport, presents performance challenges on a day like today where it's quite warm. We tend to find ourselves performance limited, so in a situation like that we'd work with our ground colleagues to find a balance in our operation.
Some of the unique challenges of London City, because of the nature of the airfield and the amount of buildings around, is we may see occasional wind shear. Wind shear is changes in speed or direction of wind, which can be quite sudden. We have a highly sophisticated aircraft which has a detection system, so it warns us about potential wind shear coming up. And as crew, it is something we train for every year in the simulator, and also that we have encountered a lot of time throughout our career operating here. So whenever we have those conditions, we do what is the safest course of action by doing a misapproach if it ever occurs. But a highly trained crew means that we always have safety as our first priority, as always.
When an aircraft lands at London City, they are assigned one of the airport's 26 parking stands, some of which are designed to handle the largest aircraft the airport currently manages. That's the Airbus A220-100 and Embraer E195-E2. Here's lead stand planner Adam to explain how it all works.
100. Thank you, Chow. Bye.
I'm Adam Senator. I'm the lead stand planner here at City Airport. The main role is to allocate stands to planes. We organise all the busing and all the towing as well. So we usually use our resource management system. As soon as we come in, we compare our regs, which is on BA systems, just to collaborate, make sure we've got the right regs on our system as to theirs, so we're sending the right planes to the right gates to the right passengers. We confirm with the buses what they have as well, and if there's any slot issues across Europe to potentially disrupt our plan. We've got 19 stands, 7 of those are remote, some are international, some are domestic and some are CTA, so we have to allocate in a way where we make sure each aircraft goes to the right section. CTA is for the Republic of Ireland, Isle of Man and the Channel Islands. They don't have to go through passport control, but still have to go through customs. So we make a provisional plan and then we're pretty reactive just to see what happens. We're quite tight, we can have aircraft come in and the stand vacates and the stand comes, aircraft comes in straight away.
And how closely do you work with air traffic control with dealing with all that stand planning?
So we don't physically talk to them with a lot. We have the EFPS screen which allocates, we can put the stands on here, and it's simple as moving the aircraft here, which then causes a reaction on here which takes off the stand. If there are any issues, we've got a direct phone just here which is a straight line to ATC. Pick it up and it goes straight to the controller in charge within seconds, and that I can allocate the stands hours in advance, minutes in advance, and it'll go through in seconds.
City Airport's looking to bring on larger aircraft, new types of aircraft. There's, the hope that one day they'll be able to operate the A320neo, and we're already seeing larger aircraft like the E2 Embraer jet family. Has that had an impact on your job? Has that changed what that looks like day to day?
Similar. I think we was ready for it. We have the stands available, so it's just more getting them in and allocating them. The ramp have been quite well reacting to it. We allocate in a way where we sort of make sure everything goes out on time. We also allocate in a way to enhance a better passenger proposition, allocating them in the right areas in order to reduce the busing as much as possible, give the best possible passenger proposition for everyone. Give me an example of a really memorable occasion you've experienced during your time here. Of course. So in 2023, December, when it snowed heavily, I'm sure you remember it in London, we was in the middle of our peak. I was on shift. We had every stand filled. We had planes in the taxiway waiting for their stands, planes to be de-iced, and the snow came down and we had to suspend movements. We had planes in the taxiway. Once we closed for the night, went out in the snowmobiles, the snow plows, and started plowing the snow all night. So that was definitely memorable.
As soon as a flight touches down at the airport, the airfield's operations team take over, ensuring the aircraft are parked, refueled, and safely dispatched to their next destination.
Because we self-manoeuvre to parking of aircraft and we don't nose in parking at London City, we have a dedicated fleet of fueling trucks totalling 10. Those trucks are bespoke made for me because the turning circle and the space where they have to come to rest and deposit the product is so tight that we couldn't buy an off-the-shelf option of vehicles. So I had made for the airport 10 bespoke vehicles of 35,000 litre capacity, and we draw from an airside compound and deposit in the aircraft via that bowsings. We have a really grown-up forecasting tool that our continuous improvement team constantly update and challenge. That gives us foresight in terms of bag capacity and passengers and aircraft. The way that we do that is better planning. We plan for it, we look at historical trends, we talk constantly with our airline partners. What's coming at us? When is it coming? What special needs do they need to make that rotation in line with their expectations? And how do I do it safely? We constantly do that every day, and that's how we get good at turning aircraft around safely. But more importantly, it's in line with what our customers want. So what does an airline want? What do they expect from their rotation? What's their image to their customers? They in charge us with that. We entrench it with safety, and we go and do that every day.
Are there any plans in the future to bring on board electric and hybrid ground vehicles to replace some of the sort of petrol and diesel driven?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're really fortunate that 92% of all of my ground service equipment is already electric. It's a decision the airport made 25 years ago. It was the right decision at the time, and it's really prudent the current age that we're in. Electric is the answer. It's how everyone needs to be operating at an airport. We unfortunately are very ahead of the curve, with 92% of all of my GSE being electric. Every time we have a fleet replacement program or a maintenance cycle, it is always done with environmental at the top of our thoughts. And luckily, I've only got 8% less to go.
And Donny, you've been at the airport for, I think you said 25 years.
I have.
That's an amazing length of service. Can you tell me about how you've seen the airport change in that time?
It's gone from a really good idea in the middle of London to a really important, well-positioned infrastructure that helps the economy. That's my take on London City. It's grown with the local community, it's grown with the local council in terms of Newham. We've always tried to hold their hands and they hold our hands. We've grown together. We're one of the biggest employers in Newham. We're one of the most important areas for Canary Wharf, which was at its peak the financial capital of London and will return to be. That's the growth that I've seen over the 25 years.
And of that 25 years, do you have a favourite memory?
I would have to say back to my GA world. So I was very fortunate to help start the GA exposure at London City with a few of my colleagues. We took that business from no GA traffic to a very, very high number. And we did it in the best way that I've ever seen. So one of my fondest memories will be helping to grow the Jet Centre as it was. London City's self-manoeuvre aircraft are parked to their final resting position, whereas most other airports will have a nose-in or remote parking. That gives us a very unique problem of jet blast on starting aircraft up. And because of the positioning of our gatehouses, we have a cardinal rule internally, which is no departing passenger can ever be subjected to jet blast. So we're always keeping that in our minds about readying an aircraft to depart. When is it going to start? Where's the exhaust of that engine going? And where are the passengers boarding from the adjacent stand? For the last 25 years, we've always had it that no departing passenger can ever be subjected to jet blast. It really makes the start of their day very bad, being blown away, ready to board their aircraft. So it's always in mine and all of my staff's mind, you cannot subject a jet blast ever.
So I'm Dave Christie, I'm the Aerodrome Director. So I look after all parts of the airport and airfield once a customer leaves the terminal building. So we manage all of the ground services under wing. Our guys will marshal the aircraft in, they'll put the stairs on, they'll take the bags on and off the plane. So I look after the team that does that, as well as the team that makes sure the runway is operational all times of the day that it needs to be. And our fire station. So we have a fire station here at London City, as all airports do. And my team are here all operational hours to make sure that they run that team as well. It's a bit cliche to say no day looks the same, but for me that very much is the case. So I'll have a look at how many passengers we've got flying out and into the airport. Look how busy we're going to be, a number of aircraft rotations, whether it's the weekend. Of course, we don't open in Saturday afternoon or Sunday mornings, so that's a little bit different from most airports here. I'll look at staffing numbers. Are we going to be able to give customers a really great experience? Are we going to be able to turn the aircraft as quickly as we need to? And then I'll look at anything we're doing in the future. So what changes are coming up to the airport that I need to be involved in early on and have an understanding of. But space is a real constraint here at the airport. So everything is just a little bit smaller than you would see some of the larger airports like Gatwick or Heathrow. Our planes park in a slightly different way. All of our equipment on the runway is a little bit smaller, dedicated to the size of the aircraft that land here and the number of passengers that fly on those aircraft, really.
Most aircraft turnarounds at London City are targeted to take around 30 minutes. That includes getting aircraft on stand, loading and unloading the passengers and cargo, and crew preparation. London City Airport prioritises connecting aircraft to electrical ground power units during this time to save the aircraft having to start their own auxiliary power units and to save them burning more fuel.
When we first start our day, when we come to the aircraft, the captain has to do the first walk around to make sure that they are happy to accept the aircraft. So I'll come on board the aircraft first, make sure the systems are working normally, and then go check the outside of the aircraft, that everything is in place as it should before coming back to the flight deck. Meanwhile, the first officer will start setting up the aircraft inside, putting the flight routes, dealing with the nav aids, make sure everything is set up appropriately, as well as radio communication. And once that's done, we'll regroup together, make sure that we have covered everything is as it should be. We've agreed on all of those items, and we will also receive our paperwork. So our load sheets, for example, we'll make sure that the figures are correct, agree together, calculate the performance to get out of the airfield, and we'll continue with our checks until we board the passengers.
Cabin crew perform a variety of duties during a turnaround, from routine security checks to verifying the correct safety equipment and catering have been loaded on board. All this accumulates in a briefing before each flight.
So we are checking all the seatbelts, and we are also checking the life jacket. There is nothing hidden there, and they all have one life jacket.
And this is our dry sauce trolley. I did already open the seal, but I would usually just do that now. And leave that there, and then I'm just going to check that we have first aid box, which is right there, and it should be sealed, perfect. And then we've got our juices, tea, coffee stuff, milk and stuff in there. This is, again, I've already broken the seal, and then I'll check those all after with some paperwork that my CSM will give me. In here, we're going to have some snacks. We have crisps and granola bars, and that's pretty much what we have back here, really. So we've got lots of medical equipment. We've got oxygen, we've got a defibrillator up the front, we've got fire extinguishers here, torch, smoke hood, so we're kind of prepared for all eventualities on board. So yeah, we have to kind of check those. We also have to check our crew seats as well, make sure that they're serviceable, our seat belts will retract, things like that. So these are things we kind of have to check on the first flight of the day to make sure that everything's serviceable and that we're safe to fly.
Now, all airports face a constant battle with local wildlife, and City is no exception. That said, the airport's location and surroundings do present some unique challenges, especially due to all the surrounding water. We joined Jermaine and Jack to find out more.
So I'm Jack.
And I'm Jermaine.
And we're both Aerodrome operations officers here at London City Airport. So first of all, we'll have a whole team brief with the night manager, just anything that's happened overnight as well as what we're expecting throughout the day. We'll then all move out, we'll go and check all our vehicles, make sure they're all serviceable to bring out onto the field for the day shift.
And then we'll come out, try and scare away any wildlife that's kind of been sitting here overnight. Yeah, the first arrivals, departures will come in, go out, and then we'll just patrol the whole airfield, watching out for any wildlife, really.
So whilst we've got somebody out here on 6, as the CAA requires us to have one person out here on wildlife duties for us to be operational, we'll also then have an Ops 5 duty as well, which will be monitoring the ramp, looking out for any defects within the ramp and concrete. So here at City, obviously we're surrounded by quite a lot of water, therefore we get quite a lot of bird activity that would be prone to being around water, such as gulls. We'll also get less land animals, but we will get some foxes as it comes to night time and stuff like that.
We also get some fish, you know, that the birds bring over. So yeah, a few weeks ago, in fact, I found a dead fish over there.
So you sometimes get a fish on the runway?
Exactly, of course, of course.
There's a very minor risk of, fish strikes on takeoff.
So we have different methods of dispersing birds. Firstly, we'd use like manual technique, so we can like wave our arms at the birds, clap our hands, or drive the car up. Then we also have different stuff, like a fake shotgun. This works particularly good on the crows. So we do like this, and almost shoot.
So they are smart enough to recognise when it looks like they're going to be shot at?
Almost, yeah. So like,
wow.
So a farmer in the field, for example, how they kind of have their shotguns. So use that. We've got like a lure. It's quite funny actually when we use it. People are probably thinking, what's going on? But we kind of wave this around in the sky. This works particularly good on gulls and stuff. So we'd use this along with the vehicle digiscale on top, which I can show you in a sec. We've got the aero laser. It's pretty high powered, this. Some birds on the grass areas, for example. Turn this on. It shines like a green light, and birds are quite scared of green lights, so they see this, it's really effective. So we'll shine it behind them, and then they would literally think something's there, just fly away. It doesn't let us go above the horizon, so it kind of cuts out when we use it. It's mainly for safety, so especially with planes and stuff around, people over there. So yeah, if we shine it above the horizon, it just cuts off.
So you can't shine it at yourself, you can't shine it at an aeroplane?
No, it's really powerful, this is really powerful.
Cool.
And obviously we can't shine it in the water as well, so we're surrounded by water, so we've got to be careful about that. So with this, we have to report every 15 minutes, so kind of the stuff we saw. So say where we are now, go on the wildlife login, you can go on, didn't see anything. So we'll select where we are on the airfield, so it has with this data we can check and make a report every month about the kind of stuff we saw, the hot spots, how we dispersed them, what we saw, what they were doing flying, and kind of the directions they're going. In case we ever need to get a bird of prey, these are really effective. Life jackets we have, so in case we ever need to pick up, say, a bird that has died, we can use, so we have special PPE we use. We have to wear glasses, we have like a face mask, we have to put on gloves, aprons, and then obviously we've got our wet wipes and back. Our biohazard bags, in case you have to put anything in there.
So that's the bag for the dead birds?
So yeah, unfortunately, we've got our bird DNA testing kit, so if we don't know what the bird is, we can basically use this. It gets sent off, and then it will come back to us with the type of bird it was.
How often do you find you can't recognise the species of bird?
To be honest, most of the time we can, like especially gulls and stuff like that, but in case there's say there's just feathers with a bit of blood on it or whatnot, we would use this. But it's quite rare, to be honest.
Once those pesky birds, fish and crabs have been dealt with, regular runway inspections come in as another safety measure to ensure the airfield stays in the best possible condition.
So we're about to go and conduct our runway inspection. We do 4 a day. We do 1 primary to opening, just before opening, we'll open up and we'll conduct an inspection. So we'll do a runway and taxiway inspection, we combine it into one. We always conduct it from 09 and we inspect into the flow of traffic at all times. So should we have 27 in use today, we'll be conducting it from the 09 threshold towards 27 threshold, and likewise on a 09 day. We're always visual the traffic landing, just make sure that we're aware of any dangers, keeping aware of the situation the whole time, keeping that situational awareness. We're lining up here. If it's 27, we carry out obviously the runway first, because we always we come to Tango 1 to carry out our runway inspections. If it's 27 day, we'll conduct the runway inspection first. If it's a 09 day, we'll actually carry out the taxiway first. As I said, we always do it into the flow of traffic, so it's just the most convenient. Carry out the taxiway down to Mike, and then we enter the runway at Mike, and then inspect into the flow of traffic. So we're here at Tango 1. We'll do a quick call to air traffic control now, just to get permission to enter the runway and carry out the inspection, so they're aware it's positive confirmation and positive control of us. So yeah, we'll conduct that. Scott will give a call and we'll get that permission.
City Tower, Ops 4, holding Tango 1 for routine runway inspection.
Ops 4, City Tower, proceed to holding point Alpha.
Proceed holding point Alpha, Ops 4.
So there we've got our confirmation. He's given us a clearance point to point Alpha. So he hasn't actually cleared us to line up onto the runway and inspect the runway, but he's given us a point that we can proceed to, which is our holding point Alpha. At that point, we'll hold there. That's usually because there's either a landing traffic or traffic shortly to take off.
Runway 27 via Alpha.
Via Alpha and a runway 27, Ops 4.
So there's our permission. We've got permission to enter the runway. We enter the runway, we ensure our stop bar is down, we check left, make sure there's nothing landing, taking off, any dangers to left, and we check right as well. Make sure there's no landing traffic, or if there is, that we can see it and then we're aware of it. And then I sort of take one side, the left side of the runway, Scott will take the right side, and we're looking out for FOD, any objects that shouldn't be on the runway. And then we're conducting out, keeping a good visual look. As well as sort of any damage or debris, we're also looking for the surface condition. So at this point, if it was raining, obviously we have water on the runway, and that comes under the global reference code. So it can be wet, it can be damp, it can be dry, and we'll report that condition back to our control room, who will then update air traffic control, and we keep them informed. They will then put that information onto the ATIS system, which is a communication that pilots tune into, and it informs them of the condition of the runway. So they know what the sort of the condition is when they're landing, and it allows them to sort of preempt it and know the performance of what their aircraft is and when they land. And we will report that, as I said, back to the control room, and then we update air traffic control with that.
Vacate Victor Oscar.
Vacate Victor Oscar, Ops 4.
So because we've got traffic lining up, air traffic control have asked us to vacate, just so we've got that permission to get off, and so that they can take off and we can get off and vacate the runway.
So I understand that you get a lot of ships, both military and cruise ships, coming through here. What kind of considerations do you have?
So obviously with the waters, as you said, we enables boats on the Thames coming through here. We have sort of expositions at the XL, which brings through large ships, MOD ships, cruise ships, and we have a small cut just behind the ILS here. Due to the height of the ships, that can cause interference with the instrument landing system. We will communicate with air traffic control and liaise with them, and we're able to turn off the ILS to enable the ships and the boats to come through, so it doesn't affect the aircraft and their landing ability. Once the ship is safely through that area and outside the ILS critical area, then we can turn the ILS instrument landing system back on and allow the aircraft to land safely. So we try and aim to do our runway taxiway inspections during a more quieter period in traffic. That's not always possible, and because of the smaller footprint of the airfield, you can see we have to deal with a lot of movements and liaise a lot with air traffic control. Will be pulled off onto the stands, vacate the taxiway, etc. And contend with views like this where you're coming on head to head with an aircraft, and it means that we have to be a lot more on it with aircraft movements, where aircraft are going. We're listening out to the radio often to ensure who's got start up, who's got clearance. So yeah.
So we're about to head out on a runway inspection here at City Airport, and you may be wondering why I'm wearing one of these. This is a life jacket. Well, that is because half of this airport is quite literally built on water, and the perimeter road that we'll be using to complete the runway inspection is right on the edge of that water, so it's an extra safety measure the team have to wear.
That's behind large jet aircraft felt very strange to me. You know, I've seen TV shows, etc., that you sort of are taught, they do experiments of not driving behind the engines. But for seeing aircraft self-manoeuvring off of stand, and you driving behind whilst that's happening, yeah, it was a bizarre, strange feeling for me. I've slowly gotten used to it, but yeah, when I first arrived here at City.
Nice.
Yeah, strange.
They've never blown you over yet?
No, not yet.
Like all major airports, London City has 24/7 firefighting cover, with a team standing on by to respond to all incidents at the airports. And it turns out they deal with more than just fires. Again, like many other airports, City has a facility where firefighters can practice tackling all kinds of aircraft fires. Luckily for us, they were kind enough to light it up and show us how it's done. The airport also operates a fleet of inflatable boats designed to help access the eastern side of the airport, where the runway is entirely surrounded by water.
My name's Paul Foster. I'm a watch manager at London City Airport Fire Service. So we've got 3 fire appliances and an incident command vehicle. For licensing purposes, we need 2 fire appliances. Also, because we're surrounded by water, we have a water rescue facility. So we have 2 ribs placed within the dock, so we've got an immediate response if we have an incident within the dock area. We also deal with medical emergencies within the airport where a passenger or a member of staff. So all our firefighters are immediate emergency care practitioners. So we can take observations of casualties, so blood pressures, blood glucose, sugar levels, and we're making assessment at the time whether we require an ambulance.
For the purpose of this training exercise, the bells will go down so you'll hear the sounders. Our watch room will give a message of the incident details and the incident location, and all crews will respond to their vehicles and mobilise to the incident.
So behind me is City Airport's aircraft fire simulator, and the first thing you'll notice about it is that it's really designed to simulate pretty much any kind of aircraft that might land here. So on my left you've got a high wing jet engine, on my right you've got a low wing jet engine. There's also a tail mounted engine to simulate some of the private jets that land here, like the Falcon, which is a tri-jet with an engine on the top. When we go inside the cabin, you'll also see that there are not only rows of seats to simulate passenger seats, there is also a cargo hold that can be entered, the flight deck replicated, and a section of flooring that is designed to replicate a collapsed undercarriage, something else which might occur during a hard landing.
Flyer 33 Tango, wind is 240, 15 knots, runway 27, clear for land. Front right descent, Flyer 3 Tango.
Because the fires are powered on the simulator by LPG, we could never physically put it out. So what we do, we ensure that we carry out the correct tactics and techniques. Once we've established that and seen that, then the fires will be switched off by the operator. In the real world, a real fire would be extinguished a lot quicker than it would on that LPG simulator.
London City isn't just known for its unique location. For years now, the airport has been implementing new technologies which are often unique in the UK and sometimes even unique in Europe. One such technology is EMAS, or the Engineered Materials Arresting System. Behind me is runway 27 here at London City Airport. That's the runway facing towards the west. If you look in the distance, you can probably just about make out Canary Wharf and the City of London behind me. More importantly, what I'm standing on right now, this big grey area, is the EMAS area. Now, this is designed to bring an aircraft to a controlled stop in the event of a runway overrun. The way that it does that is essentially by using these blocks of crushable concrete. And these begin at the start of the runway being quite soft, and as you get further away from the runway threshold, they get harder, which brings the aircraft down to a controlled stop. It does that with minimal damage to the aircraft and ideally the smallest experience of discomfort for the passengers during the deceleration.
Yeah, I'm Ben Harrison, so I head up the Aerodrome operations team here at London City. I'm responsible for the airfield operations team, the stand allocation, safeguarding and the certification of the airfield. Yeah, so we're currently stood on what's called EMAS, so Engineered Material Arresting System. This is our eastern bed, and it's made up essentially of what we would say is large Lego. So here is the top hat of what covers up the crushable cellular concrete. Essentially what this does, or these 2,000 blocks will do, in the event of an entry of an aircraft in an overrun, they'll decelerate the aircraft in a controlled manner so that we can guarantee that the aircraft will stop within here and not overrun beyond. So it becomes more predictable where the aircraft will stop.
How does it actually stop the aircraft?
So because the concrete is crushable, it's made up of a special material, so as the aircraft would enter, the blocks are different strengths, so as they go further into the bed they become stronger, and then it would rapidly decelerate the aircraft to stop it, and it'd absorb all that energy. But what that does is give the aircraft minimal damage, if any, but also no impact to the passengers or crew on board.
So here we are in the now defunct air traffic control tower at London City Airport. This airport transitioned to a fully digital air traffic control tower back in 2021. And I'm here with Ben Harrison, who's the head of Aerodrome operations here at City Airport. Ben, tell me about the thought process that went into that transition and the changes that's brought to the airport.
It's brought a load of positive benefits, particularly for the air traffic controllers. So the mast behind us sits at 55 metres high and has 14 digital cameras on top. That translates into 14 screens for the air traffic controller to use. There's a 360-degree view condensed into a 225-degree panel of screens. So essentially that means that the controlling air traffic controller can see behind them, but it's all within their peripheral vision, so they'll be looking left or right to actually look behind them. There's other benefits that it brings as well for the controllers. So they have lots of overlays, like a heads-up display, so they can have all of the aircraft information, the call sign, altitude, speed, the weather, all without having to look down at any other strips or any other information.
Right, so it's a really big improvement for situational awareness for air traffic controllers. So even though they're not actually here to see the thing in a 360 view, in theory they're getting better situational awareness from a smaller digital view.
Absolutely, so the actual controllers are around 100 miles away and they are based at the NAT centre in Sonic. So everybody that we're talking to over the phone, over the radio, they're 100 miles away, but not that you'd ever know that.
And what are some of the benefits, other than situational awareness anyway, what are some of the benefits of controlling an airport using cameras rather than the eyeballs?
Well, it enables the air traffic controller to do more positive controlling, so they can look outside the window or through the screens essentially more often than they have to look down or use binoculars. They have the ability to use PTZ cameras, so if there's an area that they need to be a bit more clearer on, they can zoom in and get a more positive view. And there's also the ability to manage traffic through, or particularly VFR, where they can monitor the traffic transiting and have an overlay and then be able to track it and view it without having to, again, to get binoculars out.
My big question is why London City? Why install this remote tower technology here?
So we're the first major international airport in the world to deploy remote controlled digital tower technology. We pride ourselves on being very innovative as part of our mantra and our work ethic. And we've proven that with the adoption of CT scanners in the terminal and the deployment of EMAS.
Nice. And as I understand, this is the first international airport in the world to use a remote tower technology.
We are, yes.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're the first to do that, and again, just an example of our innovation and our trailblazing mantra.
So, Emily, Piper Vision, we hear that you're doing some very interesting stuff to do with fog, both here at London City and elsewhere. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so at Piper Vision we're wanting to help passengers get to their destination on time, and so we're doing that through using an AI machine learning algorithm which we can apply at like a hyperlocal, so site-specific area, input site-specific data do the feature engineering specific to that location and actually generate a forecast that's like a massive step change in terms of its accuracy, its capability and its frequency. What that means for the passengers travelling is that we can reduce the amount of false disruption that occurs in the aviation system.
Great. And I understand it's not just, well, right now it's about forecasting fog, but I understand that in the long run you have a desire to create technologies that will actually disperse fog. Now, I get that that doesn't exist yet, but what could that look like? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a long-term ambition, but a much longer journey for us. We founded Piper because we wanted to eliminate, in a sustainable way, all fog disruptions, and so that means addressing both the disruption caused by forecasting, so when a forecaster gets it wrong but the network acts on it, but also the actual event itself too. And so like our vision there really is to be able to actually create visibility on demand for aerodromes. And previously we've looked at that through sort of absorption techniques, but what we've learned through that process is in order to be able to build something that could scale up and go across multiple different sites and multiple airfields and so many different types of fog that you've got to take into consideration in the localization, we need a lot more data. And so forecasting fog's actually now allowing us to access that data, use a machine learning model to produce a forecast, but then we can interpolate that forecast to actually teach us about fog and the different dynamics we don't actually understand today as a science community, which is quite exciting. It flips it on its head, right? Because like to date, or traditionally, we've forecasted fog, worldwide using sort of numerical weather models. And so how they operate is, they kind of ingest in sort of the atmospheric physics and assumptions and the things that we know about fog today, right? And then they produce a forecast based on that. But what we've kind of learned over time is we can't actually say that, X plus Y equals Z when it comes to forecasting fog. And so if you kind of put those through a numerical weather model, there's a bunch of scenarios that it just can't pick up. Whereas if you use AI and machine learning, it actually starts to identify new patterns that we didn't know about. And so once you do that piece and you can identify some of those new patterns, you can actually flip the model on its head and go, actually, can you teach us about fog? What are the trends that you're seeing? And if you start to kind of categorize that on a global basis, all of a sudden you can start to look at, what are the fundamentals that we're seeing in terms of advection fog versus radiation fog and actually like performance as a whole across the industry.
Oh, and what is it about London City Airport that make you think this is where we want to do some of that research?
Yeah, so many things. To be honest, my number one was just kind of seeing the advancement of technology that was going on here. So they're one of the largest airports to implement the digital control tower. And one of the basis of what we're wanting to do when it comes to forecasting fog is shift away from sort of point in space and time measurements for visibility into measurements that use sort of computer vision to map out visibility in the same way the human eye assesses it. And so there's some just really nice synergies where we could actually augment that visibility and align that with like the tower, but also align it with how pilots or traffic controllers operationally assess visibility. So you've actually got a stronger truth source coming into the model and into the decision making. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever sat like in a fog day at an airport, but you can have the weather station down one end of the airport, and quite often you'll have, the weather station in fog or out of fog or in high dense fog, where the rest of the airport's in low fog, and depends on, what angle you look through that as to what visibility you get. And yet, pilot will assess whether they can operate based on the visibility they can see with their eye. Nothing actually maps it in the same way a human assesses that eye, so it's taking it through that way. And there's also just a really interesting dynamic here with, having the dock right there in that massive water body, that just from a complexity element, numerical weather models struggle even more so with these sort of environments to forecast fog. And so it would just seem like a good challenge for us to kind of reapply machine learning and AI to actually address that challenge.
So you mentioned that there's sometimes a disconnect between the forecast of fog and the actual fog that appears as a result of that forecast. How does that happen, and how does it particularly happen here at City?
Yeah, so forecasting fog's extremely challenging, and so traditionally we've been using numerical weather models, as a society to map out fog. But, as we kind of covered before, the physics of them isn't well known enough to actually put that into a numerical weather model and spit it out. And so that's where machine learning can kind of help teach us about it. But the fundamental problem, here at London City and many other airports too, is there's a significant number of fog forecasts that are issued that don't actually result in a fog event forming out the other end of it. So they're like a false forecast. But because of the risks associated with operating in low visibility conditions, every time there's a forecast issued that says there's going to be fog, your flow management teams and air traffic controllers, they have to act on that to ensure safe separation of air traffic, and that we can all get from one destination to another safely. So as a result of that, you'll get massive flow rates applied to an airport, and then the airlines have to comply to those flow rates, so they're reducing traffic by say 70%, and then no fog will form out the back of it. So you've got this massive disruption that's actually happening across the industry for an event that never occurs, which is insane in my books. So at the moment, if you look at a lot of these airports, you're looking at over 90% of forecasts don't actually result in a fog event out the other side here in the UK, which is mad, and globally 70%. So the problem we're solving is false forecasts as well as actual fog events.
In spite of its surroundings, City Airport continues to grow, and the airport has big plans for the future.
So working with airlines and regulators to enable larger aircraft to operate here, and particularly next generation aircraft, gives us a double benefit. Not only does it allow us to operate ultimately with a quieter equivalent footprint, because new generation aircraft are much quieter. It also allows us to reach our ultimate 9 million passenger approval by having a fewer number of aircraft movements. So that allows us to operate more efficiently, but also allows our airline customers some improved economies, allowing them to offer our customers greater value in the airfares that they will ultimately charge.
So there we have it, London City Airport, a dynamic operation with its eyes on the future, and definitely London's most interesting airport. Have you flown from London City Airport? Let us know in the comments below. This is Chris Lomas for Flight Radar 24 at London City Airport.